The Lurian battlecruiser exploded, ripped apart by human nukes, sending Lurian guts splattering on the cracked viewscreens of the crippled Galactic Alliance flagship. Jerry Roberts took a swig of his whiskey, the dim bar lights glinting off his whirring cybernetic eye as he scanned the space station dive. The old, battle-scarred human veteran noticed a young Lurian approaching his booth, blue scales quivering with excitement. Are you the Jerry Roberts, the hero of the Battle of Kepler?" the alien asked. "I'm Emir, a Lurian history student. I've read all about how the humans turned the tide of the Great Galactic War." Roberts grunted. "Sit down, kid. I'll tell you the real story, but first another drink." He waved the bartender over. "How did it happen? How did your species defeat the mighty Lurian Star Empire?" "We fought hard and we fought dirty," Roberts began, single eye narrowing. "When we got the distress call from the Galactic Alliance, they were on their last legs. You Lurians had been conquering, enslaving, and slaughtering your way across the stars for centuries with your dreadnoughts and planet crackers. Countless species were crushed or driven extinct under your jackboots." Roberts clenched his fist, servos whining. "The Alliance fought bravely, but they were outmatched. Weaker, primitive, disunited. When we picked up their message, the Lurian war machine was smashing through their defenses, burning worlds, headed straight for the core systems. Billions of civilians in the crosshairs, they were desperate." Daimir leaned forward. "So the humans intervened? I thought your species was unknown back then from an isolated fringe system." "We were, but there was no way we could stand by while innocents died, while an authoritarian regime gobbled up the whole damn galaxy. If the Lurians won, they'd come for us eventually, so we gambled everything, sent the Alliance the coordinates for our fleet, prayed to gods old and new that we weren't making a fatal mistake, and then—" The veteran took another sip, recalling the screams, the flames, "and then we brought them hell." Roberts drained his glass, cybernetic eye clicking and whirring as he lost himself in the memory. The bar seemed to fade away, replaced by the swirling void of space and the flash of weapons fire. "So there we were, the ragtag Alliance fleet, battered, bruised, but still kicking. We followed the humans' coordinates, hoping against hope that they'd pulled off some kind of miracle, that maybe, just maybe, we had a shot at surviving this goddamn war." The old soldier shook his head, a wry smile playing across his lips. "Let me tell you, kid, when we dropped out of hyperspace at the Lurian Armada's last location, we were expecting to see a whole mess of warships, guns primed and ready to blast us into space dust." Roberts leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "But instead we found ourselves smack dab in the middle of a goddamn ship graveyard. Debris far as the eye could see, like some kind of twisted metal garden. A few Lurian ships were still puttering around, their crews scrambling to patch up the damage. But most of them, nothing but floating scrap." Emir's eyes widened, his scales shimmering in the dim light. "The humans did that, but how?" "Patience, kid, I'm getting there," Roberts chuckled, signaling for another drink. "So we're all sitting there with our jaws on the floor, trying to make sense of this mess, when we get another ping from the humans. They invited us to a powwow in some nearby system, real hush-hush-like." The veteran's cybernetic eye flickered as he recalled the meeting. "We show up, and there's this sleek little number waiting for us, black as the void and twice as mysterious, not like any ship I'd ever seen before. The human captain, a real slab of meat with a face like a well-used punching bag, hails us. Says his name is Marcus Reeves." Roberts shook his head, admiration coloring his tone. Turns out these crafty bastards had been watching the war from the sidelines, gathering intel on the Lurians, and when they saw us on the ropes, they decided to step in and even the odds. The old soldier's voice dropped to a whisper, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of awe and fear. "Reeves drops this bombshell on us. Says the humans cooked up some new kind of weapon, a graviton bomb. Damn thing could spawn miniature black holes if you can believe it. They sent in a bunch of stealth ships, snuck right past the Lurians' defenses and let 'em have it, wiped out most of their fleet in a matter of hours." Roberts leaned back, his gaze distant. "The Alliance brass, they didn't know what to make of it. On one hand, the humans had just saved our collective asses, but on the other, we'd never even heard of 'em before. Didn't know what they wanted or why they'd stuck their necks out for us. The veteran trailed off, his cybernetic eye clicking softly in the silence. Emir waited, barely breathing, for the old soldier to continue his tale. Robert sipped his whiskey, the memories of that fateful meeting with Captain Reeves flooding back. The good captain, he was one hell of a diplomat, assured us that the humans were only there to help, that they had no interest in conquering or ruling over anyone, just wanted to lend a hand in taking down those Lurian bastards. The old soldier chuckled, shaking his head. As a gesture of goodwill, Reeves offered to share some of their fancy tech with us. Shields, weapons, medical gear, the works. The Alliance brass, they were still a bit wary, but they knew we needed all the help we could get. So, they took the deal. Emir leaned in, his eyes wide with curiosity. And then what happened? Well, over the next couple of weeks, the humans worked side by side with our engineers and scientists, upgrading our ships, teaching us how to use all their shiny new toys. That's when I met Sarah. A wistful smile played across Roberts's face. Sarah Thompson. She was this fiery redhead, pale as moonlight and twice as pretty. Worked on my ship, the ISS Dauntless. I was just a young grunt back then, but we hit it off right away. He took another swig, savoring the burn of the alcohol. Sarah, she was something else. Worked harder than anyone I'd ever met. Barely slept or ate, always tinkering with the engines or the shields. We talked a lot during those long shifts. Learned about each other's worlds, our people. Robert's gaze grew distant, lost in the memories. She told me about Earth, showed me pictures of her hometown, her family. I'd never seen anything like it. All those different colors, different faces. It was like something out of a dream. The old soldier trailed off, his cybernetic eye whirring softly in the dim light of the bar. The old soldier's cybernetic eye flickered as he recounted the Lurian Emperor's wrath. Zorgax, that scaly bastard. When he heard about his armada getting turned into space junk, he lost his goddamn mind, started screaming at his generals, threatening to toss them out the airlock if they didn't fix this mess. Roberts leaned forward, his voice low and intense. He ordered every last ship he had to converge on the Alliance, wanted to stomp us out before we could finish upgrading our fleet with the humans' tech. It was a desperate move, but he still had the numbers on his side. The veteran took another swig, the memories of those brutal battles flooding back. We met him head-on, the Alliance and the humans side by side. Our ships were faster, tougher, and better armed than ever before. The Lurians, they didn't know what hit 'em. He clenched his fist, servos whining. I was on the front lines fighting alongside Sarah and the human Marines. Those boys and girls, they were something else. Fearless, skilled, and loyal to a fault. They made us all better, just by being there. Roberts's gaze grew distant, a haunted look in his eye. There was this one battle, a boarding action on a Lurian dreadnought. We were pinned down, taking heavy fire. I thought for sure we were done for. But then Sarah, she pulled off this crazy move, charged straight at the Lurians, plasma rifle blazing, took out a whole squad before they even knew what was happening. He shook his head, a wry smile on his lips. She saved my life that day, saved a lot of lives, and she wasn't the only one. The humans, they pulled off miracles like that every damn day. The old soldier leaned back, his cybernetic eye whirring softly. Slowly but surely we pushed the Lurians back. They'd never faced an enemy like us before, never had to deal with an alliance that could match their tech and their tactics. They started to crack, to make mistakes. Roberts's voice dropped to a whisper, a hint of fear creeping in. But Zorgax, he still had one last trick up his sleeve, a planet killer, mounted right on his flagship. The damn thing was powered by dark matter, could wipe out an entire world in a single shot. He shuddered, the memory of that terrible weapon still fresh in his mind. Zorgax, he broadcast a message to the whole galaxy, said he'd use the cannon on the Alliance homeworlds unless we surrendered. Gave us 24 hours to lay down our arms, or he'd start snuffing out suns. The veteran trailed off, his gaze fixed on the empty glass in his hand. The weight of those long-ago events hung heavy in the air, the fate of countless worlds resting on the outcome of that final confrontation. Roberts nodded, his expression grim as he recounted the final desperate gambit. Captain Reeves, he knew it was now or never. That planet-killing cannon had to go, or the Lurians would genocide their way across the galaxy. So he cooked up this insane infiltration mission. Hand-picked a strike team of the best human and Alliance fighters. I made the cut, and so did Sarah. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. We slipped aboard Zorgax's flagship, the Dreadmaw, in a cloaked shuttle, fought our way through decks of armored Lurian shock troops, all while the fleets duked it out in the void. It was brutal, close-quarters combat. We took casualties quick, got separated in the chaos. Roberts closed his eyes, his voice dropping to a whisper. In the end, it was just me and Sarah, pinned down outside the control room, alarms blaring, red lights flashing. We could hear Zorgax on the other side, roaring orders, threatening to fire the cannon. Sarah, she looked at me, grabbed my hand, said she was with me to the end. He clenched his jaw, fighting back the emotions that threatened to overwhelm him. We stacked up, blew the doors, went in, guns blazing. It was like something out of a nightmare. Zorgax, all 9 feet of him, standing there in his black armor, surrounded by his fanatical guards. Sarah and I, we laid into them, dodging claws and plasma bolts, fought harder than I ever had in my life. Roberts's voice cracked, tears welling in his eyes. We took them down one by one, till it was just Zorgax left. He came at us, a goddamn monster, shrugging off our shots like they were nothing. Sarah, she threw herself at him, bought me time to get to the control panel to start the override sequence. The old soldier swallowed hard, his hands shaking. I heard her scream, turned just in time to see Zorgax's claws rip through her armor, through her chest. He tossed her aside like a rag doll, started lumbering towards me. The cannon, it was powering up, targeting the nearest Alliance world. Robert slammed his fist on the table, making a mere jump. I finished the override, killed the cannon. Then I emptied my clip into that scaly bastard's face, kept pulling the trigger even after he dropped, until the gun clicked empty. He let out a shuddering breath, tears streaming down his face. I crawled over to Sarah, held her in my arms. She was fading fast, blood bubbling on her lips. Told me she was proud of me, that the Alliance, the humans, that we were her family now. Made me promise to keep fighting, to keep the peace we'd won, and then she was gone. Roberts wiped his eyes, his voice hollow. The flagship, it was coming apart around me, explosions, decompression alarms. I stumbled to an escape pod, watched from the viewport as the Dreadmaw cracked in half, watched the Lurian fleet scatter and burn. He looked up at Ymir, his gaze haunted. We won, kid. We broke the Lurian war machine, drove them back to their home systems. The galaxy was free, united under the Alliance banner. But the cost, God, the cost. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.